Just going to wait for a few more people to pop in before we do get started. It shouldn't be too long. All right, we might make a start. Welcome everybody. Thank you so much for coming along to our retirement planning webinar this morning. Apologies to anybody that was hoping to do this face-to-face, but unfortunately due to everything that's happening at the moment, we had to pull the trigger and make a change, but still glad that you're able to join us this morning. My name is Bill Thompson. I'm the Brisbane Relationship Manager, and I've also got with me Tom Rouse, who's representing our financial planning team. Say hello,
Morning,
Tom.
everybody. How are you going?
Just a few bits and pieces that we need to take care of to begin with. Just be aware that everything that we do discuss with you today is general advice only. So please, if you are going to implement any of this advice for your own personal circumstances, take those into consideration. There's obviously copies of our privacy statement plus product disclosure statements on our website should you need to do any further research. And of course, if you are interested, you can actually speak to one of our financial planners to see whether or not that product is right for you. Both Tom and I are salaried staff members of the fund, so some of the details there in that disclaimer indicates that we don't provide any commissions or bonuses, so you can rest assured that we're acting in your best interests. Just to begin with, I'd like to complete a welcome to country. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which I work and live, and recognise their continuing connection to land, water and community. I pay respect to past elders past and present and emerging. All right, thank you so much everybody for coming along. Just for those of you that haven't done one of our webinars before, you'll note that you won't be able to speak during this presentation, but the chat facility is available, so we would welcome you actually sending through any questions progressively as we go through the presentation. And what we'll do is we'll try and answer those as best we can, potentially throughout the presentation, but we'll also do a couple at the first break so that we make sure that we address those in a timely manner. And certainly at the end, we'll continue to do some more questions and answers to those queries and hopefully get you the information that you do need. Just a little bit of news to kick off. Most of you should have received some communications from us in regards to our merger or proposed merger with NGS Super. I'm not sure if many of you know about them, but very, very similar to us in terms of size, in terms of their values. They've got a wonderful connection to the church as well, so we see that as actually strengthening our connection to the Catholic community, which has been fantastic. What we're hoping as a part of this merger is becoming a bigger fund, getting that better economies of scale, which will obviously have a positive effect, hopefully on fees and investments moving forward. Just to give you a bit of an update as to where we are at the moment, we have done the high-level due diligence and are now going through the comprehensive due diligence process with a final decision obviously due a little bit later this year, which will be communicated to everybody as we finalise that particular process. So really good opportunity for us and yourselves as members of the fund, and we're looking forward to hopefully that going through very smoothly. A little bit about the fund. We are what you would call an industry superannuation fund, so profit for members. We offer insurance protection, so you note on your statements you'd be receiving death, total and permanent disability and income protection as standard with our fund. So it's important, we feel, that we protect your interests in that particular space. We're obviously associated quite closely with the Catholic Church. They represent us through our employer board members, and we will continue to do that even post merger with NGS. We have holistic advice. Tom's here representing us today. He's one of our advisors in the Brisbane office, but we do obviously have financial advisors all across the country. So we're very capable of assisting you with any of your needs, should that be a possibility either at the end of today or sometime into the future. We also are pretty proud of the level of support that we provide to our members. Being a smaller fund, it obviously gives us the opportunity to get a better care of our membership. And I certainly hope if you've had any interactions with us, whether it be through a webinar or a contact for our contact centre or any of our staff across the country, that you've experienced that decent level of service and will continue to do so. Tom, one of the, I guess, furphies that floats around in regards to the superannuation industry is that you need $1 million to retire on.
Yes.
What would you say to that scenario?
Well, look, at the end of the day, you hear a lot of figures bandied about, but it really depends upon what you want to achieve. So the biggest factors behind how much you're going to need for retirement are, number one, when do you want to retire? And number two, how much do you want in retirement? So maybe if you want to retire at 60 and spend $80,000 a year, yes, you might need that $1 million. But generally speaking, most people will be working into their 60s. And also, we're going to talk about it later, the age pension is going to help out with funding the majority of people's retirement. So on the slide here, we've got the average balance that both men and women retire with their super. And all I would say is that no matter what you have in your super fund, we can always put you in a better position. It's all about making sure that we can try and put you in a better position and help you and just understand, okay, how do we fund our retirement going forward? So if you don't have that $1 million, don't worry too much about that, because there's always options that we've got on the table to help boost your super balance.
My ongoing lotto.
Yeah, that's one option.
It's not working out very well, I have to admit, but we can help you put in place something a little bit more definitive. So how much you do need in retirement really does depend on you and what you want to do. As Tom said, yes, part of that calculation is when you want to retire and how long you need to support yourself. But of course, it actually depends on what you do when you are in retirement, and that obviously reflects how much you're going to spend. If we talk about, well, we could talk about cruises, but I'm not sure too many people are feeling safe on cruises at the moment in the current environment, and certainly travel is somewhat restricted at this point in time. But there's lots of different things that people do. I use my mother as an example. She lives in a small country town, never wanted to leave there. She's really happy pottering around in the garden and doing things around the house and spending time with family. You can imagine that's obviously a cheap lifestyle, for want of a better word, but there's others out there, that yourselves might be included, that do want to do a bit of travel once that opens up. And do other things that are probably going to cost a little bit more money. Tom, your mother-in-law is possibly a good example of somebody that you'd like to express.
Yeah, she's come up early in the webinar. If you've seen these webinars before, that she's often a case study that I use. But yes, basically her passion is travel. Obviously, not being able to do that at the moment, but hopefully once we get back to that. So we designed a plan for her about, okay, well, how do we fund that? So when you're thinking about retirement goals, I guess as a financial planner, we're going, okay, well, these are the goals that we want to achieve. Then how do we quantify that in terms of what we need to fund that? So, and as we're going to talk about, there are many ways that we can do that.
Let's start that off with what retirement could potentially look like. And as we've kind of highlighted, it's a very individual experience. Some of us might decide that we're going to continue to working full time. I know I speak to a lot of teachers when I'm out and about. Some of those are late 60s, even some early 70s, that still love teaching and continuing to do that. Some are doing it full time, part time. Some of the teachers obviously doing relief work as and when it becomes available. People can choose to do casual work to supplement some of their income. you know, when you think about retiring and making sure that you still have something to keep yourself busy and that social interaction, a lot of people might choose to volunteer progressively throughout their retirement. But it's very, very individual. So, you know, make of it what you will. Speak to somebody that's going to help you actually support whatever plan you do want to have and put in place. When we talk about how much you need in retirement, there is some very good research out there provided by the Association of Superannuation Funds Australia, or ASFA, as we've got on this particular slide. Gives us a bit of an example of what a comfortable lifestyle in retirement looks like, and it's quite useful. But to kick things off, for a single person as a comfortable lifestyle, you need 44,000, a tick over 44,000. As a couple, 62,000, obviously, because you have some of those share costs. You know, but having a think about what you currently earn and what you're spending is a reasonable guide to what that might look like and what you might need to do in retirement. As again, it is an individual preference and something that you can adapt. This is, I guess, an example on this slide of what that comfortable lifestyle looks like, and also on the other right-hand side, what a modest retirement and what you might be able to expect if you get the age pension. One of the key ones, I think, down the bottom of this particular slide is a private health insurance, and what level of private health insurance you can expect if you live in that comfortable lifestyle. But again, where that individuality comes into place, you know, what sort of travel or holidays you want to do, and what hobbies you want to support during that time as well. Tom, your experiences?
Yeah, I guess you're right, Bill, that the definition of comfortable is very different to every client that I see. So when I say what's a comfortable lifestyle for you, some people, that modest lifestyle or just above that might be comfortable for them. For others, it's that, well, they do want to travel more. So they're thinking, well, really that's 60, 65,000 as a couple, or 40, 45,000 as a single. I'm going to need a little bit more than that in the initial years of retirement. So again, I guess it's coming back to thinking, well, what do you want to achieve in terms of funding your retirement? And that really comes back to, I guess, well, what is the lifestyle that you've got now? We're going to use the B word a lot, budget. It's a horrible word because it's the most difficult thing to do, but it is probably the most important thing going into retirement that you need to focus on. Because if you know what your budget is going to be and that you can stick to it and be realistic about that, then that's going to be the number one driver behind any successful financial decisions for your retirement.
I'm glad my partner's not listening to you there, Tom. Sticking to a budget, not exactly my strong suit at this point in time. I guess the other thing to consider as well when we're approaching and planning for retirement, yes, superannuation is obviously going to be a very large part of that for many of us, but it isn't the be-all end-all. It isn't necessarily the holistic approach to your financial situation that you should look at. And Tom, in particular, is someone that can help you bring all those other puzzle pieces into play to make sure that you have that view and can support the lifestyle that you want. How would you sort of go about that, Tom?
Yeah, so I guess one of the first things is when people come and see me, they think I'm just going to talk about super. That's not the case. I'm a financial planner qualified in lots of different areas. So we talk about your situation as what we call a holistic view. So not just an individual if you're a member of a couple, and not just super if you've got other assets. So obviously there's different assets can help fund your retirement. And again, an example with my mother-in-law, I'll give her a name, her name's Julie. With Julie, what we designed for her retirement was using the family home to help fund her retirement. Now, I'm not saying that's for everybody. There's often people want to maintain the family home, stay in the family home for as long as possible, potentially pass it on to children. But for her, the priority was, well, I don't have a lot of super. So we looked at, well, downsizing the family home, adding to super, then that gave her the liquid funds to allow her to do what she wants for her retirement. So again, we look at all these pieces of the puzzle, as Bill said, to really design a financial plan to put you in the best position and meet your goals and objectives, what you want to achieve at the end of the day.
You'll probably go into this a little bit further when we talk about financial advice and what you can offer, Tom. But as I understand it, you can now assist people with the documentation for the age pension.
Yes, that's correct. Yes, so as we'll go into it further, you're right, Bill. But for 70% of people retiring and who are of age pension age, 70% of people will be eligible for either a part age pension or a full age pension throughout their retirement. So we're actually going to be helping those people in the future if they want that help, because it can be quite a minefield when you're dealing with Centrelink.
Definitely. Just a reminder, everybody, if you do have any questions as we're going through, please send them through the chat facility and we'll be able to monitor those and make sure that we address them again in a timely manner, so we can get you the information that you do need. So Tom, tell us a little bit about the tax benefits of saving within superannuation. I know you have a very specific view on this.
Yes. Well, again, the first time that I see clients, the most important thing to remember about superannuation is not an investment. It's not like buying an investment property or purchasing shares. All super is a tax vehicle. Why is it the best tax vehicle for anybody retiring or approaching retirement? Is all the way that the money is taxed going into super, and also the interest that you earn, the tax on the interest that you earn while it's in there. So on this slide here, we can see that within the super phase or the accumulation phase, that the interest that you earn is only taxed at up to 15%. And the same with any transition to retirement. We'll talk about that. But the real kicker is when you do get to retirement and your money is in what we call an account-based pension, then all the interest that you earn on that money is tax-free. So this is why the government put limits on how much you can get into super, because otherwise millionaires would be putting all their money into super and avoiding tax. So it's just going back to all super is a tax vehicle. The catch, there's always a catch, that any money you put into super is preserved or restricted, so you can't access it until you meet what we call a condition of release. So that's why when you're 20, 30, well, putting money into super, I can't touch it for 40 years. Maybe it's not the right thing to do at that time. Whereas as you're approaching retirement, then that downside of access is going or gone. So, and we'll talk about that as well, Bill.
Yeah. On the next slide, in fact. So in terms of when you can access your superannuation, there's a few key dates that come in, and that's a condition of release. And what is a wonderful superannuation term, once you've reached aged 58 or 59, you have met your first condition of release, which is preservation age. You've been preserved long enough to be able to access your superannuation. So to be able to do that at age 58 or 59, you can either do that transition to retirement allocated pension, but there might be some benefits to holding off on that. But ultimately, if you are fully retired from the workforce and not ever intending to return to work for more than 10 hours per week, then you'd be considered retired and you'd be able to access anything in your account at that time. Once you're aged between 60 and 64, you can continue to work, but you need to have changed a work arrangement. So you leave one employer and start work with another, and you can access anything in your account at that particular point in time. For those of us that are potentially younger, like for myself, my preservation age will be 60 years of age. So that is currently a sliding scale that will move out to 60 for everybody eventually. Once you've reached age 65, it's essentially a free-for-all. Anybody and everybody can access their superannuation tax-free at any particular point in time. Tom, just on the transition to retirement stuff and potentially setting up an account, what are the benefits of potentially doing so if you are 58 to 59 or as opposed to over 60?
Yes, good question. I mean, I guess that preservation age of 58 and 59, so you've currently got to be 58 and 59 to access that super through transition to retirement. Generally speaking, we don't see a lot of people accessing their super at those ages, and that's purely because of the potential tax consequences. It's not to say that you can't or you shouldn't, but the kind of golden age for super is 60, because 60 is the age where it's guaranteed to be tax-free when you access your super. Okay, so that's why, generally speaking, people do hold off until 60 before they start accessing the super tax-free. The reason why you might do that, as you pointed out, Bill, is that there could be a couple of reasons. Number one, if you wanted to pay down debt quicker, so that could be an option, that you could use your super to pay down debt. The other option is that it allows you to have a tax-free source of income. And if you've got a tax-free source of income through superannuation, that you might be able to add to your super through salary sacrifice more, and save on income tax. And we'll talk about that, I think, in the next couple of slides. But it's just basically, how do we use a super system to maintain a level of income that you're wanting, but also save on income tax? So there's ways that we can use the system. The key thing to take from this slide for people listening, 60 and 65 are really the key ages where you need to look, okay, what are we doing? So come and have a chat, because those are really the key ages where options become available to you.
Perfect. Thank you, Tom. So having a look at salary sacrifice in a little bit more detail, why people might salary sacrifice is essentially, as Tom indicated, is that saving on your income tax. So as you can see, if you are earning 18,200 or less, you're not paying any tax. So you absolutely wouldn't be considering salary sacrificing, because everything that comes into super is going to be taxed at that 15%. But once you start earning over 45,000, you can see that the difference between the tax you pay within superannuation by salary sacrificing and your marginal tax rate is starting to balloon. So if you're earning between 45 and 120,000 and you salary sacrifice $1 to your superannuation, then you're already saving 17.5%, and that's without any investment earnings. Isn't that right, Tom?
Yeah, so again, it just comes back to all super is a tax vehicle. So basically, these are contributions that you put into your super before you've paid income tax from your salary, or you can actually do what we call a tax deductible contribution. So that's where you put a lump sum in and claim a tax deduction in your tax return, and it reduces your taxable income, but that's a guaranteed return. So all we're talking about is a tax difference. So that's a guaranteed return on that money going into super. Then once the money's in there, then it earns interest, and is only taxed, the interest is only taxed at 15%. Okay. Yes, any money that you put in, it is locked away or preserved until you meet one of those conditions of release. So you've got to think about your own situation, and obviously things that you might want to do outside of super with that money. But as we've already talked about, if you're approaching 60 or 60 plus, there are ways that you can access super tax-free after 60 plus. So it's again coming back to, how are we doing things in our situation to make sure we put ourselves in the best position?
So there are some limits on how much you can actually get into your account via salary sacrifice. So we talk a little bit about concessional contributions, concession being that you're getting that tax concession when you contribute those monies to superannuation. So there is a concessional contribution cap, which up until the 30th of June was $25,000 per year. From 1 July, just gone, it is actually moving up to $27,500 per year. So anybody that was on that kind of borderline can now contribute that little bit extra and save that additional money. When you're doing those calculations, you obviously need to take into consideration all your employer contributions. So that's the super guarantee. If your employer is doing any additional contributions for you, that as well. The money that you salary sacrifice, and of course, if you're going to do a lump sum personal deductible contribution, you need to include that as a part of your cap. Interestingly, I speak to a lot of people, Tom, that aren't aware that if you haven't used your cap space up in previous financial years, you can bring that forward and increase your cap for the current financial year.
Yes, so basically the government brought in some new rules. And this was starting from the 18-19 financial year. And what the rules were if And the caveat is that your super balance, so when we talk about super balance, it's all superannuation that you have, not just in one individual account. If that is less than $500,000, then any unused cap from the previous financial year actually carries forward to the next financial year. So what it means is that your personal concessional contribution cap might actually be higher than the 25,000, or from the 1st of July this year, 27,500. Okay, a great way to figure out, well, do you have any unused carry forward cap is through the MyGov account. So you have to log into your MyGov account, go through to the ATO section, and they will actually tell you if you've got any unused cap from the previous, well, it's actually 3 financial years now, because we've got 18, 19, 19, 20, and 2021. Okay, so that's something to be aware of, that you can actually catch up and put in more than the actual limit if you can use that, what we call carry forward rule. All I would say is, if you're looking at that, definitely get some advice around it, because it can be quite complex.
You've already touched base on our next slide, Tom. I might get you to continue, though. I will note that the non-concessional contribution limit has actually increased from 1 July as well.
Yes, yeah, that's right, Bill. So what we talked about previously, that's what we call concessional limits. So that is separate to this non-concessional limit. So again, there's a lot of terminology bandied about. Concessional means salary sacrifice, pre-tax, anything that you put into super or goes into super and doesn't get taxed at your marginal tax rate. Non-concessional contributions, or after-tax contributions, this is a separate limit. So this is money that you've already paid tax on, it's in your bank account, or you've had it as take-home pay, and you can put up to $110,000 a year now from the 1st of July in as what we call, and that's a better slide, Bill, yep, as an after-tax contribution. So the other thing is that if you want to put more than the $110,000 in, so if Bill does win that lotto, if that lotto ticket does come in, then you can actually use what we call the so the bring forward rule. So that's where you can bring forward 2 more years of contributions of this non-concessional limit and put up to $330,000 in as one lump sum. Just means you can't put any more money into super for another 2 financial years after that. So in total, 3 financial years, you've used up your limit up to the $330,000. And the great thing is now, as long as you're under 67, you can use this rule. Okay, so previously you had to be under 65 to use the bring forward rule. Now you can, as long as you're under 67, you can use that bring forward rule, and you don't have to be working either. So there's no work tests with regards to putting these contributions in. Once you do turn 67, well, then you're limited to putting in the 110,000. You can't use the bring forward rule at this time. And also you have to pass a work test to put the contribution in. So that work test means that you've worked at least 40 hours in any 30 consecutive days during the financial year. It's a bit of a weird rule, because as long as you do 40 hours work within 30 days, you don't have to work again during the financial year. You've met the test, which means that you can put the money in. After 75 is the age where you can't put any more money into super under these non-concessional rules.
Perfect. And Tom, in terms of the work test for between 67 and 74, it's currently proposed that that's going to be abolished in 1 July 2022 as well. Is that right?
That's right. So the last budget, the government said, okay, we're going to get rid of the work test for non-concessional contributions. The work test will still count for concessional contributions, okay? But for non-concessional, so if you've got money, I think the reason why they did this was that we often see clients where they might have come into an inheritance or just have money after the age of 67, where they want to put it into super, but they can't. So it's allowing those members, as long as it passes, which I'm pretty sure it will, to put that money into super. So again, if you're in the situation where you have retired and over 67, under 74, and you've got money outside of super, is thinking, okay, potentially from the 1st of July, and you want to simplify things, getting that money into super might be an idea to look at.
Thank you, Tom. Some other ways that you can get some money into superannuation, there's the downsizer contribution, and those rules have recently been tweaked as well. But the downsizer is available to anybody regardless of age. So if you're over 75 and have that opportunity, that's one way that you might be able to get some money into superannuation. But again, if we go back to one of our earlier slides when Tom was talking about the holistic approach to your retirement, that's also a consideration as well. Some other ways that you can do it, obviously consolidating your superannuation accounts. If you're aware, and there's probably been plenty of marketing out there across the board, the more accounts that you have, obviously the more administration fees that you're paying, and potentially insurance premiums being duplicated as well. So check to whether or not your circumstances would be better if you were to consolidate your accounts into the one account as well. And it's much easier to do that now than it has been historically as well. Another one, if your spouse meets certain conditions, you could make a spousal contribution to their account and potentially receive a tax offset as a result of that. Tom, is that something that people should consider?
Oh yeah,
certain
definitely.
Circumstances.
Yeah, so with the, I'd just point out two things. With the downsizer contribution, that is a separate limit to the other two limits that we were talking about. So if you've already used the non-concessional limit, then this downsizer limit is on top of that. It's also on top of what we call the total super balance. Now we haven't mentioned it, but because it doesn't really affect a lot of people. But if you've got more than 1.6 million in your super, you can't actually add to your super through non-concessional contributions, apart from this downsizer contribution. If you're in that position, then it's a nice problem to have, but those are just two things to remember about that downsizer contribution. Again, the conditions on that downsizer contribution, you have to be over 65 and owned your own home for more than 10 years, and you have to put the proceeds in within 90 days of selling your home, okay? So those are really the conditions about making a downsizer contribution. But again, it's just thinking, okay, if you do move home, it's another trigger point to go, okay, let's look at what we're doing, okay? And with the spouse contribution, this is something that I look at and I go, okay, well, if there's a couple, member of a couple, the spouse is on a lower income or not working, and the other spouse is working and they've got a bit of income tax that they have to pay. If the spouse that's working contributes to the lower income spouse and they put in up to $3,000, then the higher income spouse will get up to $540 off their tax bill, as you've mentioned, Bill. All I see is that's, again, a return on your money. That's a guaranteed return on your money of 18%. There's not many investments that give you a guaranteed 18% return. It's a small thing, but they all add up.
Yeah. Just had a question come through, Tom, as well, that I'll answer in the here and now. In regards to the work test and when that's no longer going to apply for non-concessional contributions, I just stress it is only proposed legislation at this time, and it's scheduled to come into effect from 1 July 2022. So just keep an eye on that. We'll obviously inform everybody as any changes in the superannuation industry occurs, but at this stage it is just proposed legislation, and more information will be available once that's become legislation. So just keep your eye out for those details. Now we kind of get into the juicy bit, and this is a very, very common question when we go out and about in terms of what people, when can people access their superannuation, and we touch base on that a little bit. I guess the secondary question is, well, how can I access my superannuation? And you've really got two options. There's the lump sum option where you can make a lump sum withdrawal from your superannuation. As we mentioned as an example, once you reach age 65, everything within your account becomes available to you. So you can actually do a lump sum withdrawal of the whole or part balance among certain rules. And everything that you do withdraw after age 60 is also tax-free. So that's quite beneficial. But another option, and it's probably the more common option, is where you can set up an income stream or an allocated pension, as Tom mentioned earlier. And there are some potential benefits to doing that as well, Tom.
Yes, definitely. So as Bill's pointed out, that lump sums versus income streams, okay? Generally speaking, it's not to say lump sums aren't an appropriate way. If Centrelink are involved in your life, then just be very careful about income streams, because it can impact Centrelink benefits. Okay, so there might be reasons why you do leave money in a superannuation account and take lump sums. And generally speaking, that's all around Centrelink. But for most people, when they come to retirement, what they just want to do is replace the income that they were earning while they were working. So this is where a product such as an income stream is the perfect vehicle to do that. So the way that it works is you can convert your superannuation over to an income stream product. You get paid a regular payment from that product. And if you ever want to take lump sums as well, you can also access it in terms of lump sums. So it's very, very flexible. The kicker with the income stream side of things, when you do convert your money to an account-based pension, is that's when, once you're retired or over 65, whichever comes first, the earnings that you earn on that money are tax-free. If you leave your money in that superannuation account, which is a bit like a bank account when you're retired, obviously it's invested very differently, but the interest that you earn on that money is taxed up to 15% still, even though you might be retired. So just think about these kind of accounts, superannuation and pension, as two phases. We've got the accumulation account, the super account, where you're putting money in, okay? And then the pension account is where you move the money across. It still earns interest, which tops up the account, but then you're receiving a payment from that account as well, okay?
I think the one thing I'd highlight on that slide as well, Tom, is that pension account kind of excludes the transition to retirement when you talk about being able to make a lump sum withdrawal. There are some restrictions on how much you can take from a transition to retirement pension, and that's currently 10%. So no lump sums withdrawals are available in that particular space as well. So in terms of an allocated pension plan, as we go through, I guess, our lifetime within the superannuation industry, we're employed or we're contributing to our superannuation, then we can create that pension account currently from 58 and work from there. Everything obviously from age 60 is tax-free, whether that be transition to retirement or your standard allocated pension. Once you do create a pension though, Tom, and one of those important considerations is that you do need to take a minimum amount out each financial year.
Yes, that's correct. So depending upon your age, so if you're between 60 and 65, then that minimum amount, well, actually, it's currently 2% at the moment, given the COVID relief rules. They've extended that for the 21-22 financial year. So the minimum is half of the normal rate. So it's a bit confusing. So if you're 60 to 64, then it's 2%. From 65 to 75, it's 2.5%. The standard amount is 5% when it goes back up from the 1st of July 2022. So they basically, the government, they want you to use your super. They don't want you to use it as a tax vehicle to pass on to adult children tax effectively, which it can be used to do. But so they try and make you use more and more of your super as you get older and older. So that's why they put these minimums on there about having to take money out and use it.
Excellent. We're actually now going to go through and speak in a little bit more detail around our two different pension products. So I'll just hand over to Tom to step you through the advantages of each of those and who they might be suitable for. Thank you, Tom.
Yeah, so basically Australian Catholic Super, they offer two income stream products. One's called RetireChoice, the other one's called RetireSmart. So with RetireChoice, as it says in the name, what this is basically doing is it allows you to choose the investment option of where you want your money to be invested within that product. So Australian Catholic Super has 13 different investment options that you can choose from. And each of them have a different level of risk. I think that's on the next slide, Bill, where we've got that from the highest risk that you can put them in, which is basically all in shares. I don't see many retired people choose that option because it's very, very risky. And then the very lowest risk is obviously cash and term deposits. And the issue we all know with cash and term deposits is that we're not getting any return on that money in the short term because interest rates are so low. But there are other investment options that you can choose. Each has a different level of risk and expected return over the long term, but you can tailor, okay, what do we want to choose in terms of where we're investing our super fund money or retirement money to make sure that you're comfortable. So that's where you've got the choice. So you've got a bit more choice around how to manage your investments. The other product that Australian Catholic Super offers is called the RetireSmart product. Now, this is more, I guess, of a set and forget product, which allows members to have an income stream, but allow the super fund to choose, okay, how are we investing that money? And the way that that product works is we use what we call a 2-bucket investment model or strategy, where we have a growth bucket of where you've got most of your shares and your growth assets, and then we have which is a more higher risk investment, and then we have a low risk investment, which is the cash bucket. So the way that it works is you tell the super fund, okay, I want X amount each year from my super income stream. And let's just say you're taking the minimum 5% from age 65. So what the super fund does is they go, okay, well, we're going to put 2 years worth of pension payments in that cash bucket. So that would be 10% that would go into that cash bucket. The remaining portion of your super goes into the growth assets or the growth investment option. And that's where that gets invested. Then what happens is any income that that growth investment earns, that gets distributed to that cash bucket to top it up, because your pension payments get paid from that cash bucket. So the theory is that over time, that cash bucket keeps getting replenished with the interest or the investment earnings. So hopefully that cash bucket never runs out. If it does drop below 6 months of payments, then it will get topped up. The other thing to remember with this kind of RetireSmart product is, depending upon how much you have in that cash bucket, you might have quite a large portion of your super in the growth side of things. Now, what that can mean is that in the short term, because you've got a lot of growth assets, there could be quite a lot of volatility in that investment, okay? So all I would say with the RetireSmart product is that generally speaking, it suits those investors or those members that are more comfortable seeing larger fluctuations in their super balance in the short term, because it can be quite a volatile investment. So if that's not you, if you want to sleep better at night and not worry about your super going up and down as much, then probably the RetireChoice option is something to look at. There are developments on this RetireSmart product to have a bit more choice around those growth assets to make them a bit more tailored, like the RetireChoice, but that will probably be coming in the future.
Awesome, thank you, Tom. Now we just take a quick break. Just to let you know, we probably don't have a lot of questions coming through at the moment, so we might progress through. Just to give you a bit of an idea, if you do have any more questions, please, by all means, send them through the chat facility, and we'll be able to answer those in a timely manner while we've got Tom on here and using his expertise. We're just going to go through the I guess the Centrelink element of our retirement phase moving forward, but at the end, you might be aware that we've actually had a lot of changes in the superannuation industry recently. So if you're interested in what those look like and how you might be able to take advantage of them, they're kind of towards the end of this seminar. So we'll go through those and make sure you have everything up to date as well. But Tom, tell us a little bit about who's eligible and how do they calculate my entitlements for Centrelink purposes?
Yeah, thanks, Bill. And yes, as Bill pointed out, if we're not explaining anything clearly, please just send us a question and we can rephrase it in probably a more appropriate manner. But the age pension. So as we pointed out earlier, a lot of my advice for retirement actually focuses on age pension entitlements as well. So that's the first thing. 70% of people retiring today will rely on the age pension in some form throughout their retirement. So with the age pension, obviously it depends upon your age. So we'll talk about that. And the other two things are assets and income. So what Centrelink do is they look at what are your assets, they look at what is your income, they do those two tests independently of each other, and they go, okay, well, based on the outcome of those two tests, this is what we're going to pay you. And they always pay you the lower of those two tests, which is effectively how it works. Now, with regards to age, on the next slide, we've got, depending upon the year that you were born, will depend upon, well, when is my age pension age? So just remember the ages that we talked about earlier, 58, 59, 60 to 65, that's all about accessing super. This is about, well, when will I be able to potentially access the age pension? So if you're born before the 1st of January 1954, well, you've already attained your age pension age. And then if you're born after the 1st of January 1957, your age pension age is 67. So for most people, it's going to be age 67 going forward with regards to when they can first apply for any potential age pension. But once you have reached your age pension age, that's when they go, okay, well, let's look at your assets and let's look at your income. So under the assets test, as a single person, they first say, are you a homeowner or a non-home owner? So as a homeowner, they go, okay, let's have a look at your total assets. The main asset that they don't include is obviously your home. So you could be living in a $3 million home. They're not going to count that as an asset towards this test, okay? But they pretty much count everything else. So what's in super, what's in the bank, any investment properties you've got, the net value, if you've got debt on it, shares, they even count your car and contents, okay? They add that all up, and if it's less than $268,000, then that's where you're eligible for the full age pension, okay? As soon as you tick over that $268,000 as a single homeowner, then that's where they're going to start reducing the age pension depending upon how much you are above that threshold. And that's where you're eligible for a part age pension. And then as soon as you tick over just over $585,000 in assets, that's when, okay, there's no pension entitlement, okay? So if you're exactly on $585,000 as assets, you're probably getting $1 worth of age pension in actual payments. But the great thing is that you get that pension card, which gives you the discounts on car rego, rates, electricity, etc. So that's what often a lot of people want, is they just want a part age pension if they're above that threshold. So we'll talk about some strategies as well to, I guess, reduce your assets. So that's for a single homeowner, single non-homeowner. Yes, you've got a bit more in assets that you're allowed because you don't own your own home. And then for a couple, so with a couple, again, they look at your assets combined as a couple, okay? So again, they'll look at what's in the bank. It doesn't matter whose name it's in the bank. They always count it as the couple's assets. The only additional asset which they don't count towards this test, apart from the home, is if you're a member of a couple and one of the members is under age pension age and one is over age pension age. For the member under age pension age, they're not going to count your superannuation, okay? So again, it's super only. If you convert your super to an income stream, then Centrelink will count that as an asset. So this is where, again, planning for retirement, we often help members of couples where there is that age difference. Well, how do we make sure we reduce our assets in a sensible way? And one way to do that is to say, okay, for the spouse under age pension age, have their money in superannuation, because you can have $1 million there, they're not going to count it as an asset, okay? So again, they look at these thresholds. If you've got under 400,000 roughly as a couple, then you're going to get the full age pension. Between 400 to 880, then it's again on a sliding scale, a part age pension. And as soon as a couple you're over the 880 mark as assessable assets, then there's no age pension entitlement. And again, non-homeowners for couples get a slightly higher threshold as well. So that's one test that they'll, yep, sorry, Bill.
I was just going to say, for want of a better term, if I fail that test in the first instance, can I never apply again?
Very good question, actually. No, so you can apply as often as you want. So it might be that you apply, your situation that you're above the threshold, your situation changes, and that might be through advice, okay? And we do some good planning, and that suddenly, while you're below the threshold, then you just reapply, and they'll look at your situation at that point in time. So the assets test is always at a point in time when you apply. So they just go, okay, what's your situation at this point in time? Does that make sense?
Thank you, yes.
Yep, good. So that's the assets test. Then the other test that they provide, or they do, is what we call the income test. Now, for the majority of people who, I guess, are applying for the age pension, if they're still working, then the employment income is the main thing that counts towards the income test. So again, if you're a member of a couple, they will always look at income coming in as a couple for both of you, okay? So that's the main thing. The key thing is with the income test that they look at the gross salary. They don't look at the taxable income or the income that after you've salary sacrificed. They look at the gross pay that you have, okay? So that's the main income. But once you're retired, if you don't have any employment income, well, what else do they look at? The only other main income source that they look at is something called deemed income. So this is where, and you probably, hopefully you've heard of the term deeming, or might have heard of it on the news, that this is where they look at your financial assets and they go, okay, we're going to assume you're earning an income from your financial assets. So financial assets are basically money in the bank, value of shares, value of super or account-based pensions that count towards the assessment, okay? They add all that up and they times it by roughly 2.5%, and that's what they calculate as income towards the income test. They don't actually care if you've got an income stream and you're getting $50,000 a year or $100,000 a year from it. They don't look at the income you're getting from the income stream. All they do is look at the balance of the income stream, and they use that formula to calculate, well, that's how much income you're getting. So that's the key thing to remember about the income test. The other thing with the income test is just because you're working or might be working part-time, casually, doesn't mean you can't apply for the age pension. I often see clients, Bill, where they just think, well, I'm working, I can't get an age pension. That's not the case. It depends upon how much you're earning. So I've had clients where, as a member of a couple, one of the couple was on $60,000 a year income, but because their combined income test was still under that $82,000 threshold, then they're eligible for a part age pension. So again, it's just to remember, look at your own situation and go, okay, might we meet the income test in our situation? And so with regards to that, they'll do both tests. Generally speaking, if you're retired, it's the assets test which most people get the lower payment for, because with deeming rates so low that the income test really doesn't come into it for the majority of people applying for the age pension. Okay.
So speaking of the age pension then, Tom, tell us a little bit about what that looks like from a dollar value perspective.
Yes, so if you're under that lower threshold, okay, then the full age pension for a single person is just nearly $25,000 a year. And then as a couple combined, it's just over $37,000 a year. Now, again, if you're a member of a couple and one of you's over age pension age, one of you's under age pension age, well, the person over age pension age doesn't get paid the single rate, they get paid half of the couple rate. So that's the other thing to remember, okay? But effectively, as we've said, 70% of people will be eligible for a part age pension in their retirement, okay? And what your other assets, mainly your super, is going to do is top up any age pension entitlement that you are entitled to get that more comfortable level of retirement income that you want. So that's going to help out with, well, how long does my super last? So that's the other question that we often get asked is, well, when am I going to run out of money and I'm left on just the age pension? So if you think about it, as if you're a member of a couple and you need $65,000 a year or 67, okay, by the time that your combined assets are below $400,000 as assessable assets, well, you're getting $37,000 in age pension as a couple anyway, so you only need to top it up by $30,000 a year to get that more comfortable retirement. You don't need the full 67 coming from your superannuation. So this is why when we talk about longevity, that the age pension is going to help out with how long your super is going to last in retirement for the majority of people. Ultimately, I guess it does worry people. Most clients that I see, they don't want to run out of money. Okay, so this is where we talk about, okay, other potential products that might be suitable in terms of giving you a bit more comfort that if you did run out of your super, that you're not just left on the age pension. There are other products that you can look at to give you a top up to the age pension if that's suitable in your situation. But that's where the more detailed advice comes in, Bill.
Yeah, perfect. And you've already kind of indicated that there are some benefits if you can get even $1 of the age pension. And one of them I think you mentioned was the seniors card.
Yes, so so the thing is, the age pension card, that will give you lots of discounts. So mainly on health and bulk bill doctors, cheaper medicine, gives you the extras though, gas, electric, council rates, car rego. But even if you don't get that age pension card, the majority of people will actually be eligible for what we call the Commonwealth Seniors Health Card once they're retired. Okay, because with this card is not asset tested, it's only income tested. So once you're retired, you go back to, well, that deemed income, that's all they're counting towards the income test, okay? You've got to have roughly over $3 million as a couple before you're not eligible for this card, okay? But what this card does is it gives you the discounts on the medicine and bulk bill doctor visits. So that's what most people want that card for, the age pension card, is to make sure that they don't have large health costs going into retirement. So as with the Commonwealth Seniors Healthcare Card, which you can still apply for if you're not eligible for the age pension, then I think 97% of Australia are eligible for this card once they're retired.
And if you've got over $3 million, I'm not crying any tears for you at this point in time.
Well, yes. I mean, if you've got that, it's a nicer problem to have. So, yeah.
Brilliant. And I think you already highlighted that you potentially could get in certain states and territories lower rates and bills and discounts on public transport.
Yeah, so just double check depending upon the states. An interesting story, I actually had a client who was moving from, now this was a couple of years ago before COVID happened, but they moved from New South Wales to Victoria, and that was for family reasons. But she found out, or we found out that if she was on either the age pension card or the Commonwealth Seniors Healthcare Card, that there was reduced stamp duty up to a certain level of purchasing that new property as a retiree. So again, it's just looking at the state's websites and potential discounts that you can get if you're eligible for either of those two cards.
Next is something that is absolutely very close to my heart, and unfortunately I think it's underrated from a superannuation perspective. Generally speaking, people don't understand the estate planning element of it and think that in the event that they pass away, that their superannuation and any insurance benefits will actually automatically go to their nominated loved one or their loved one in general. But it doesn't quite work like that, Tom.
No. So the main thing to remember about superannuation is what we call a non-estate asset. Okay, so legally, nobody owns their super. It's the trustee that owns the super. We're all beneficiaries of a trust. So that's why it doesn't form part of the estate. You have to tell the trust or the super fund, okay, if I pass away, this is who I want my money paid to. Now, the best way to do that, generally speaking, is always putting a binding nomination on your super to say to the trustee, I want you to pay this person and I don't want any questions asked. Now, there are limits on who you can nominate. So you can either nominate a spouse, de facto partner, interdependent relationship, children of any age, or you can actually nominate your estate as well if you want it to go to the estate as a binding nomination. And then as long as you've got that binding nomination on file, the super fund, all they do is they act on that binding nomination. They don't have to go through any claims processes, write to anybody, because it's a valid binding nomination. If they don't have a binding nomination on file, you might have what we call a non-binding nomination. It's still, I mean, that's an indication to the trustee who you want it to be paid to, but legally the super fund still has to go through a claims process and ask, okay, does anybody want to contest this? Do you want to make a claim? And ultimately the trustee or the super fund will have the final decision on who that money goes to. So definitely putting a binding nomination on file 9 times out of 10, even if you've got a simple situation and you've been married for 50 years and you know nobody's going to contest it, just for an administrative process, that money can get paid out a lot quicker if there's a binding nomination on file rather than a non-binding nomination. The other thing is, with regards to estate planning, and I'm seeing this more and more, and this is all around rule changes, is that there's no death tax in Australia apart from money going from super to adult children. Now, with superannuation, even though people access their super after 60 tax-free, there's always what we call a taxable component to super and a tax-free component to super. I won't bore you with the details, probably too late, but effectively, any taxable super that goes to adult children, that gets taxed at a flat rate of 17% going to the adult children. Now, there are strategies and estate planning strategies that we look at to try and minimize that tax if your super did get passed on to your adult children. So we're planning for that more and more, Bill, if that's important to you. Look, 2 things: you might spend all the money anyway and it never goes to the kids, which is always the plan. But if everybody knew when they were going to pass away, it'd be easy to plan and do what you want. So that's becoming more important, Bill, is okay, well, how do we make sure we pass on this money in a tax effective way?
Well, at the moment, the way that my children are treating me, they're on their own as far as I'm concerned. So bless their little hearts. Another element that I know is becoming increasingly important, particularly in that financial advice circle, Tom, is aged care. I know it's wonderfully complex, but you and the team can actually help, I guess, simplify that a little bit more.
Yeah, again, it just comes back to we're fully qualified in lots of different areas, and this is one that's more and more, I guess, people are asking for help. Generally speaking, it's clients that I see that still have elderly parents, and they might be powers of attorney for them and having to decide on aged care facilities and things like that. And you're right, it can be very complex. How do we fund it? How do we make sure that we've got the cash flow we need to pay fees? So this is where, if you are in that situation and you need help, we can help you with making some decisions financially around, okay, what are we doing in that situation? We don't get into the realms of actually choosing aged care facilities and helping you with that. That's more of a personal choice. We can help you with, direct you to resources, and Catholic Care are actually a very good resource that we partner with. But effectively, we can help you with the financial side of things and make sure that we've got that ticked off. So it's just I guess a growing area. More and more people are looking at it, and it's going to become more and more important to get some financial advice around that area.
And I think it's difficult as well, because oftentimes things don't necessarily go to plan, and you need to make some of those decisions in a very short space of time.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah,
the potential for it to go wrong is very, very real.
Yeah.
So I guess that's a lot of our presentation this morning. We've still got a few bits and pieces in terms of some of the upcoming changes in regards to superannuation that we'll take you care of. But I guess in terms of the next steps now, we would like to encourage you to put a plan in place and hopefully engage someone like Tom or Sonia or one of our other financial planners across the country to help you do that. To give you a bit of an idea, obviously, how they can support you in terms of looking after your health. From an emotional perspective, I speak to a lot of people that are very, very anxious and nervous about what their retirement might actually look like. Do I have enough money? Will I be able to do things? Those sorts of things. So coming along and getting a financial plan is a very good way of actually having a good understanding of, okay, I'm actually going to be okay. And there is that relief from that particular perspective. But ultimately, I suppose, Tom, in particular, the intent of a financial advisor is to put you in a better financial position.
Yes, always. Yes. So look, with financial advice, yes, finance is very important, and we will always focus on that. So there's tangible benefits that we can get. Obviously, making sure we save on tax, maximise Centrelink, minimise tax for the estate. So those are all tangible benefits that we can generate through advice. But you're right, don't underestimate, and I think you've experienced this as well, Bill, the intangible benefits that you get from advice, where we are taking that pressure off people making their own financial decisions and worrying about, have they done the right thing? Am I going to have enough for retirement is always a key one. So we definitely help out on that side of things as well. And look, that's more of a personal choice on, okay, well, how worried are you about that? So that's where you can make those decisions. But it's like anything in life, you can do your own tax, you can write your own will, you can do your own financial plan. But if you want that help, and the way that we help is on the comprehensive side, is put a detailed plan together that's comprehensive, and you've got a blueprint going forward, which does put a lot of confidence and comfort in people retiring.
I think one of those old adages is that you don't know what you don't know, and even I, who've been in the industry for probably 15 odd years now, speak to yourself, Tom, in particular, in recent times, and I still find out little bits and pieces that can assist in just bringing that additional piece of the puzzle together and put you in a better position. So I highly recommend that. We did talk a little bit about the tangible and intangible, so we probably don't need to go there. To give you a bit of an idea of what services are available and how you do engage those, we do have 3 different types of information available to you. So you can get some factual information by contacting our contact centre over the phone, which is fantastic. If you're interested in just some general advice that doesn't take into consideration your personal circumstances, then you can have a chat to myself or my other colleagues in the regional offices to provide that to you. Many people are probably unaware that there's a level of advice that's available to you at no additional cost, because you already pay a fee as a part of your membership. So we'd love to see more of you taking advantage of that. And you can talk to things such as your contribution strategy, your insurance needs, what investment strategy is for you. And certainly in that over the phone space, if you're looking at setting up a transition to retirement and making sure that meets your needs and does put you in a better position, for a small fee, they can help you do that over the phone as well. But I can't speak more highly of our comprehensive financial advisors. Well, not necessarily Tom per se, but we do obviously have a number of comprehensive financial planners across the country that can get you into help you with your holistic financial situation. And that's not just super, it's things outside of super as well, as we mentioned earlier, in terms of the age pension, those sorts of things that can make a big difference to what your retirement looks like as well. Our financial advisors, I mentioned at the start, they're salaried staff members. So where we had some issues, obviously through the Banking Royal Commission, where a lot of financial advisors were remunerated in convoluted ways, that's not a representation of our guys. Our guys get the same salary regardless of the advice, regardless of whether or not you stay with our fund or go to an alternative. So I absolutely 100% trust them. If I'm sending you across to them, it's because I know they will do the right thing for you. So if you are interested in having a chat to a financial advisor, please consider our guys first and foremost. Tom?
Yes, I'll also say that everyone really should be having a chat at least with the limited advice team, because they can give you some really good tailored advice that if you haven't looked at your investments, I can't stress enough, make sure that you're comfortable with the risk that you're taking with your investments. So just have a chat with them. It's only 20, 30 minutes on the phone, and they can give you some really good recommendation on your investments. And also, if you're wanting to do that salary sacrifice, as Bill's already mentioned, or use a catch-up provision, the carry forward rule, that they can also help you with that, okay? And that's at no cost. We deal in obviously the holistic side of things, and as Bill mentioned, you don't know what you don't know. So the way that it works is, if you haven't seen us before, the initial consultation when you come and have a chat is always, there's no cost. We just sit down for about an hour, have a look at your situation, and if you're a member as a couple, it's always a member as a couple. You don't have to be a member of Australian Catholic Super to come and have a chat. And we will go, okay, well, these are the issues, these are the ideas that you need to think about. It's important to remember we never give personal advice verbally. So at that initial meeting, we never say, okay, Bill do this, Tom do this. It's always about, this is what we need to think about. And then, a bit like a plumber, a builder, I give you a quote to say, okay, well, if you want me to put a plan together at a fixed cost, this is what I would cover, and this is how much it's going to cost. And that plan always covers the cost of doing the plan, writing the plan, going through the plan, and implementing the plan. So if there are recommendations to put in place, we help you from start to finish, okay? Generally speaking, the cost of the advice is just dependent upon the time it takes to put that advice together. So that's what you're paying for. Like a solicitor, like an accountant, you're paying for my time and my professional opinion. And generally speaking, that can range from $1,500 to $2,500, just depending upon the complexity of the advice. Might be a bit more, might be a bit less, but those are the general costs involved in terms of that comprehensive plan that we put together.
Thank you, Tom. Just following on from that analogy, yes, Tom will do a fantastic financial plan for you, but I wouldn't have him build a table for me.
Definitely not.
It's a fraud. No, not the handiest man. Now, some of you might have noticed that there's actually a new link that has actually been put into the chat facility there. If any of you are interested in a level of additional contact with us, whether that be factual general advice, that limited advice over the phone, or speaking with one of our comprehensive advisors, if you click on that link, that will take you to a spot where you can actually leave your details and make that particular request. Someone from the fund, as appropriate, will actually reach out to you and make sure that you get to where you need to be, or get the information that you need, should it just be some simple inquiry. We've got just a few more slides to get through, and I'll take you through those in a minute. Remember, if you do have any questions in regards to any of the details that we've discussed here today, please send them through now, because we would like to answer them while everybody's available. No such thing as a silly question, and I guarantee you, if you're thinking it, then others will as well. So please be free to clear and lodge those for us. So there are some pretty significant changes to superannuation and the environment that we're coming through. This one has been fantastic, and this one's, I guess, been portrayed as being there to, I guess, assist with that, closing that gap between superannuation benefits between women and men, because unfortunately, those people that are generally currently casually employed tend to be women in a lot of different industries. So where at the moment you have to work earn at least $450 within a month before you become eligible for superannuation, the government is going to be removing that threshold. So if you're a casual employee from 1 July 2022, and start earning any money through casual employment, then you'll actually be eligible for a superannuation guarantee from your first dollar, which is a fantastic outcome, because unfortunately a lot of people miss out on that moving forward. This is, I think, another fantastic initiative. So currently, if you're aged between 67 and 74, as we highlighted throughout the presentation, be able to contribute anything additional to your superannuation on top of your employer contributions, you need to have met the work test, which is that 40 hours within a 30 consecutive day period. From 1 July 2022, it's proposed at this point in time, which we highlighted earlier, that they're going to remove the work test, which will allow you to contribute concessionally or non-concessionally to your account. The only limitation on that proposed at this point in time is that anybody that's wanting to do that lump sum contribution and claim a personal deductible contribution will still need to meet the work test. So that's a little bit of a trigger as well. But it's great that more people will be able to get more money into superannuation, and hopefully that that has that beneficial effect of obviously putting less pressure on our Centrelink and tax purposes. Something that's becoming a little bit more frequent, Tom, is the downsizer provisions. And I know from 1 July 2022, there's some more flexibility being provided to people here.
Yes, that's right. So that, currently the age to use a downsizer contribution is you have to be over 65. And what they're doing is they're reducing that to age 60. So it's trying to encourage people that obviously the kids might have left home, they've got a bigger home and they don't want to live in a bigger home anymore and downsize, that they could use the proceeds from 60 to actually add to their super to help fund their retirement. So again, just trying to encourage, I guess this is designed about house prices and trying to free up stock for families. That's the policy decision, but it can have very good benefits for those wanting to retire as well. Just a caveat to this as well, you don't actually have to downsize your home to use this rule. So there's often clients that I've seen where they've sold their family home, but they've maybe gone into a newer townhouse and spent pretty much the cost of the townhouse plus the stamp duty and moving costs has been the same kind of value. But they might have had money outside of super as well that they're wanting to put into super. So there are ways that you can use this rule to your advantage to make sure that you're planning for retirement in the best way. Another example, Bill, is I think you've had this example as well, where somebody wanted to use their super to put a deposit on a home because they didn't want to sell their home first. So they used their super to put the deposit on the home, but then they wanted to top their super back up once they'd sold their other home. So again, you can use this rule to help do things in life that you might need to do in a different way, rather than go to the bank and maybe have a bridging loan or borrow money. So again, it's thinking about your situation when these things happen.
Yeah, definitely. There's so many different ways to look at it. And again, you don't know what you don't know. So speak to somebody that does. This is also good news. There's a lot of talk leading up to the budget announcements in May this year that the government was going to put a stop to any increases in the superannuation, but they have let it go through. So effective from 1 July just gone, superannuation guarantee rates went up to 10%, and they're scheduled to go up by 0.5% each year through until 2025, where we will max out at 12%. So that's fantastic. You should start to see those coming through in all of your future pay slips. So just have a quick check and make sure that that particular box has been ticked, but that should also outline some better outcomes in retirement. Contribution caps have also increased from 1 July 2021, and we already covered this a little bit. Concessional contributions, so those that your employer pay, you salary sacrifice, or those personal deductible contributions have gone from 25,000 to 27,500. And just remember, we also mentioned that if you had that unused cap from 1 July 2018, you might also be able to use some of that to boost your superannuation contributions as well. Non-concessional contributions have also increased from 100 to 110,000, or in the event that you can use that bring forward rule, those additional 2 years would take that up to 330,000, which is a fantastic result as well. We've got some more webinars coming up, so some opportunities there if you do want some more information on some different topics. We've got our quarterly investment seminar. There's a seminar that focuses almost purely on the Centrelink stuff. Aged care is something that we do quite regularly as well. And of course, we will always be doing ongoing retirement planning webinars. So if you want to visit our website, you'll be able to see some details on there as to where they are, when they're coming up. Some of those might actually be in person at different stages, but dependent upon obviously our current COVID situation and where we are all living. Before I just go into the member portal, I will say as well, at the end of this presentation, you're going to receive an email from us which has a feedback document in it. So we would absolutely welcome any feedback that you do have to try and get some improvements out of us in terms of what we present, how we present it, and the information that you need as a part of your retirement planning. So please, if you could please take the time to do that. And certainly if you do need any additional assistance, you can let us know through that particular process as well. Our website, our member portal got a bit of an upgrade a couple of years ago, and I think it's looking quite fantastic. Just a bit of an example there. Lots of different things that you can do on there now in terms of making contributions. The balance is obviously always available. Really easy to see not just what your percentage investment returns have been for you specifically, but also the dollar value of those returns as well. Your insurance details are obviously listed on there. You can apply for additional insurances or make some changes to your insurances if you need to make that, that change as well. You can do a non-binding beneficiary nomination to nominate on there. So if you don't have one, I absolutely recommend that you go on there and check your details and take those particular steps to make sure that your wishes are met. For those of you that potentially have a pension account or a superannuation account and you have access to your money, what's not listed on here is you can actually make withdrawals through the member portal now as well, which is a fantastic scenario, depending upon your certain circumstances. So it's a maximum of $20,000 per day, and you do need to have done one physical paperwork and provided bank details to be able to access that as well. But there's a lot of good information on there, so I recommend you go on and have a bit of a poke around and see what information you can use. If you do need to contact us, you can call us at any time on the 1300 658 776. We're available on our website, obviously, and you can send some information through there. Or if you need to email us with an inquiry, please email fundoffice@catholicsuper.com.au. Or if you have an association with one of our regional team and you've got their contact details, I am absolutely sure, as I would be, please get in touch with them and see what they can do for you. So you go from there. Now that concludes our presentation this morning. I wanted to say thank you to Tom for his presentation skills, and we did have Justin in the background there helping us with our technical element. We'll probably stay open for just a couple of minutes. We don't have any questions on there at the moment, but if you'd like to send any of those through, otherwise we'll end the presentation in a couple of minutes and hopefully reach out to you with any inquiries that you have at a later date. No, I don't think any are coming through. So thank you very much everyone for attending. Good luck, stay safe, and we hope to see you next time.
Thanks, Bill.